So we're going to talk about preparing for ceremony, um, the importance of preparation in shamanic work, and ways to prepare.
Good.
So when we say preparing for ceremony, it could mean a lot of different things. The ceremony could be a big communal ceremony that you're going to take part in or that you're going to host. It could be a piece of healing work. It could be simply doing a journey, doing any kind of spirit work. Really.
Any kind of spirit work.
Mm-hmm.
For me, there's only one thing to do at the very beginning, and that is to stop. Stop whatever you're doing and breathe and really feel yourself exactly where you are. Because that's where you have to start from, a place of being where you are, and everything else follows from that.
And it reminds me of a teaching I received from my spirits some years ago, where I was trying to work out where to go next or what to do, literally in that moment, and I just couldn't feel what the right thing was. And then they said to me, well, stop. Stand still. If you don't know whether to go left or right, then stand still. Why are you trying to go somewhere before you know where you're going? So stand still until you know where you're going.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And stopping helps us to remember, helps us to come into the moment, and helps us to remember what we're going to be doing and why we're doing it.
Right. And if your head is filled with ideas and questions and desires, you're not going to be able to get into touch with your spirits. And that's the next thing to do after you stop and really feel yourself where you are. Then you can already begin to feel the presence of your spirits.
And so there are different types of preparation. You might want to prepare yourself, which is what we've been talking about, and we'll be talking a bit more about that. You might want to prepare the space that you're going to be working in. And you might also want to do several preparatory pieces of work before you step into the work. So there's different aspects of preparation, and the main thing is to really take time for it. For me, over the years, I've become more and more aware of how important preparation is. And if I do my preparation in the right way with the spirits, then once I step into the ceremony or step into the ceremonial work, I can just let it flow because I am ready for it.
And in fact, the ceremony has already begun.
The ceremony begins really when you begin preparing in a way. So we're going to talk a bit more about preparing yourself, and then we'll talk about preparing the space and doing preparation work. So we talked about getting yourself ready into the moment, stepping away from everyday life. And you might want to do that 2 minutes before the work, or you might want to do it 2 hours or 2 days. Right? Depends on the piece of work and the instructions you've been given. But you have to do it at some point. So it's taking that moment to stop and to remember what you're going to be doing.
And then for me, the next step is coming into acknowledged or conscious contact with my spirit helpers. And receiving the power that they are offering for me to do that work, whatever it happens to be.
And that could be that if I know I'm going to do something in the afternoon, it might be that I go out in the morning and talk to them and sort of declare my intention, my heart wish to have their support, to have their guidance, to have their help, and really ask them to be my side, you know.
It's really important, I feel, to remember that if you do start your preparation in the morning, as Zara was just talking about, that you don't get involved with writing on the computer or reading emails or the news or anything like that, but to really try to stay centered in the work that you want to do. Okay, maybe you want to prepare the surroundings of where the ceremony is going to be, and that will also be a part of the preparation. And as I said earlier, the ceremony has already begun.
Mm.
So if you're taking your drum or your rattles out, or whatever you're doing, lighting a fire, it's all part of the ceremony. And so try to really keep that uh, consciousness as you go around doing the preparations. The ceremony has already begun.
And sometimes there are physical preparations to do, not only for the space, which we'll come to, but for yourself. And maybe you need to fast, maybe you need to wear certain things, maybe you need to gather some shamanic spirit objects or nature objects with you. And try to do that with this ceremonial connection and consciousness. And it's amazing to feel how the power begins to grow. I often feel like the focus begin to really come in like that. So it's not just the physical aspect of it. That's not really the most important thing. It's like gathering the focus and gathering the necessary spirits that are going to be taking part in the ceremony.
And feeling that power and working together with that power as you do the preparations. Yeah.
And it might be whether I'm doing a healing ceremony or a general ceremony, I will probably also go out not only to ask for conscious connection, but to ask for help and power. And so I will go out and do some singing, or I will go out and do some rattling or drumming, maybe a few hours before or the day before or an hour before, to just not only feel the connection, but kind of ask for an extra build-up of power.
So you have some reserves to work on. Yeah.
So that's a lot about how to prepare yourself. And then we can talk about preparing a space, whether that is a space to do healing work in or a space in nature to do ceremonial work.
Well, for me, the first step is really calling the spirits in a very conscious and aware way. Like if we were going to do some work in here, I'd want to come in here sometime before and make sure that everything was the way that I want it to be. And then I would call my spirits and ask them to please come and help.
And can you share a little bit about how you actually work with not just your spirits, but the space itself?
Right. Well, this is the room that we have our circles in, for example, in the room where we generally do our healing work and other spirit work. And so it's filled with all kinds of beautiful people, I like to say. On the wall behind us here, you can see a couple of drums. You can see some rattles, medicine bags, and this beautiful felt cape that was given to me years ago. And all of these people, I talk to them all. And ask for their help and power during the work that's going to come. And the more consciously I work, the more I step into the ceremony.
And so if there are spaces like this where you might work regularly, then for me it's about kind of tending and maintaining a relationship, regularly over time. So come in here and do some work every so often, as well as the sort of more intense work to prepare for a ceremony. So you have an ongoing relationship with the the specific space that you're working in.
Right. And a lot of you. Well, I remember when I first started doing shamanic work years and years ago. I lived in a very, very small space, and so my living space was also the space I did my ceremonial work. And so it's necessary to make a shift, not only in your consciousness, but also in the physicality of the place. So that certain things that might not be appropriate to have sitting around on a tabletop while you're doing ceremonial work. For example, if you've had a party the night before and there are a couple of empty wine bottles, or maybe one that's even by mistake half full, you don't want them just sitting around. No, you want to tidy up, and by the way, I really wouldn't advise partying with alcohol the night before you're doing ceremonial work. Parties are another kind of ceremony, yeah, and wonderful ones too. Yeah.
At the right time.
At the right time.
Yeah. And so there's also possible to do ceremonies out in nature, maybe in places that you don't know so well. And so for me, if I know I'm going to be preparing for a ceremony in nature, then what I do in the morning or a day or two before is I go out on a sort of walk with the intention to ask to be taken to the place of the ceremony, or the place that wants to offer itself to the ceremony. So it's not me deciding. It's a sort of partnership between me and the spirits and the universe, the ceremony and nature. And in a way, you can see that the ceremony is already present, already there, the spirit of the ceremony. And so in a way, as you're walking, you're looking for where the spirit of the ceremony is taking place and recognizing that, and then asking for permission to do the ceremony in that place, and asking the place, what can I do for you? Is there anything I can give back to you? How can I thank you? And how would you like me to do the ceremony here? So that I don't bring my ceremony to the place, I sort of see that me and the place are holding the ceremony together.
I generally feel that the place, if I'm doing it out in nature, actually is calling me and inviting me to do the ceremony right there. And well, now we've been living in the forest here for 12 years or so, and there are certain places that have invited us for doing different kinds of work, and so we tend to use them. And I always check in before just assuming that it's okay to do the work there, just sort of blundering in, you know. You don't want to do that. And you're working with a being. You're working with a spirit being, and this means that you're including that being in the work from even before the work starts.
And when you're there, the power of the ceremony is going to be powerful also because not only of you and your spirits and that connection, but because of the power and the connection being brought to it by the place.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I have been taught by my spirits that if I'm to do a ceremony outside in nature, even if it's a place I know, then I always have to go out and tell it about it beforehand. I have to go out, I have to tell it what the intention is, I have to tell what I hope will happen, and I have to ask for its help. And that preparation is, as you said, part of the ceremony, even though it seems like it happens before. But in spirit space, it all kind of comes together and joins in. So it's very important to take time for this.
Absolutely. And go on.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say, if I feel pushed for time, which is like the absolutely not ideal way to do any spirit work, I always have to make time for preparation, even if it's just 3 moments. I cannot do the work without preparation.
And the way to start preparation, I really want to underline, is by stopping. and then recognizing that you do have the time. Right? And even one time the telephone rang, and it was a friend of mine, and his fiancée was on the way to London from Georgia, the Georgian Republic, and she got off the airplane in Vienna and had a stroke. And she was coming to London to get married. And he called me up on the phone moments after he had found out. And there wasn't any time, right? I had to act immediately, but still I stopped. I stopped and I breathed in, I breathed out, and called to my spirits for help. So that everything else was off the table. The clock was off the table. I was absolutely present and focused on the work that I had to do. And I did it in that moment with the telephone still in my hand. She was out of the hospital the next day. I didn't have much to do with it, but I think maybe the help that I sent did.
And so it's easy to get into this idea that ceremony is only in the action, but ceremony is in the preparation, ceremony is in the intention, ceremony is in the space, ceremony is in the connection. All of these things are brought together. Ceremony is in the circle that we make. And so we have to really think about all these things in order to really step into a powerful ceremony. And sometimes there is what we like to think of as maybe big ceremony or bigger work. It might be that you're going to be holding or taking part in a very big communal ceremony with a lot of human people, or that you want to do a very important piece of work to show your commitment or promise to a place in nature. Or it might be that you're going to do a vision quest or a fast or a sitting out overnight, utesitta. And so for these things, again, it's important, in fact, vital to prepare. And on our courses, when we have people go and sit out overnight for one night, really recommend that they take the whole day or the 2 days to prepare. And part of the preparation is coming to form the intention fully. But the other is to go to the place and talk to it in the morning before the evening goes out. And then there's also some fasting in the evening. And collating all the physical things you're going to need in a ceremonial manner. So all of these things weave together to make the ceremony into what it is.
Mm-hmm. And the main thing which forms the ceremonial matter in this preparation is being aware of your intention as you are doing it, and being aware of your spirits helping you to get your rain jacket, to get your rubber boots. It rains a lot up here in this part of the world. And whatever else, these physical things you're going to need out there, right? Is maintaining the intention, maintaining your awareness of your spirit's help.
And then one final thing that can be good to do is sometimes if you're doing a bigger piece of work, you might want to do other preparation pieces beforehand, like you might want to do 2 or 3 preparation journeys in the weeks ahead, so that when you come to the ceremony, you're really prepared. You're prepared to take that step. You're prepared to make the change. Because in a way, ceremony is a declaration to the universe of your love, of your gratitude, of your wish to change, of your wish to be witnessed and acknowledged.
Mm.
So it's good to be ready for when you step into it.
Yeah. And in closing, I'd like to remind a great teaching that I received about 30 years ago from a friend of mine in North America, uh, Papone, who was definitely a wonderful medicine woman and an incredible ceramicist. Uh, and she said at that time, life is a ceremony. Life is a ceremony. And it's not easy to remember this when our lives are bombarded with things that are seemingly unceremonial. But the more that we can remember it, the more ceremonial our lives will be, and the more powerful they will be. That is filled with power.
So may your work be joyful, may the work bring you joy, and may you feel connected to the circle of life.
And thank you. Thank you for having the good intentions you have.